What's up everybody, I'm Jasprit Singh from theMinorityMindset.com, where money minds rethink rich. Here we are, the second stimulus plan is finally here, about 9 months after the first stimulus plan was passed and about 6 months after negotiations for the second stimulus plan started. Now, as we all probably know, another stimulus plan means that YouTube is about to have a field day with every financial YouTuber talking about another round of stimulus checks, but I want to use this video to talk about what this plan is and what you should be doing with another round of stimulus checks. I'm going to keep the intro short for this video because I know everyone's probably sitting at the edge of their seats trying to figure out what's going on with this new stimulus plan, so let's jump right into it. Congress has passed a $900 billion stimulus plan. This is what $900 billion looks like, and this is smaller than the previous stimulus plan, but it kind of helps bridge the gap because we have a lot of people losing their benefits at the end of 2020. This stimulus plan essentially does 4 different things. The first thing it does is it sends out checks, smaller checks, this time not $1,200, but $600 checks to people. Second, it extends unemployment and jobless benefits. So if you lost your job because of this pandemic, this new stimulus plan will extend it for another 11 weeks where you will get $300 a week through the unemployment program. Third, small businesses are going to get $325 billion in assistance through things like loans and grants. Fourth, there's another $15 billion bailout going to the airline industry because, well, airlines are still struggling because of this pandemic, so part of the stimulus plan money is going straight to airlines as a bailout. I'm going to be jumping deep into these 4 things in this video, but one thing that became very apparent during this stimulus plan negotiation was how inefficient the government really is, because on a CNBC interview, they were talking about why the president could not sign the stimulus plan the same day it got approved, and the reason was because Congress people had to first draft the stimulus plan and write these thousands of pages, and then they had to wait to print it out on a special parchment paper, and after they got the special parchment paper, that's when they could get it signed by the president. And so part of the reason for this delay was waiting for a special parchment paper in the year 2020. What is this? Regular paper? Send it back! Give me some parchment! I haven't heard people talk about parchment that much since I watched Harry Potter, but this video is not about parchment, it's about your stimulus checks, so let's jump into these $600 checks. As you might remember, the first stimulus plan sent out $1,200 checks to Americans. This time, it is a smaller $600 one-time check, and to qualify for this check, you need to have an income of $75,000 or less, or if you're a married couple, you need to have made $150,000 or less back in 2019. If you made more than $75,000 as a single person, or even more than $150,000 as a married couple, then the amount of money you get starts to phase down until $99,000 as a single person or $198,000 as a married couple. After that, you get a whole $0. But if you qualify for a $600 stimulus check, you get a stimulus check for you, you get a stimulus check for your spouse if you have one, and if you have any dependent kids, you also get a $600 check for each kid that you have. The Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin says that Americans can expect to start receiving their stimulus checks as early as the week of December 28th, but if history is any indicator of the future, chances are the vast majority of Americans are not going to start getting the stimulus checks that early. If you plan on receiving a stimulus check, you could receive a physical check, or you could see a direct deposit into your bank account. Now, one thing that I do want to point out here is that the second stimulus plan, it kind of feels like politicians just kind of got this passed really quickly because they needed to get something passed before the end of the year because we had so many Americans set to lose their unemployment benefits. And that might be why Senator Chuck Schumer, who's on the Democratic side, as soon as this bill got passed, he came out and he said that as soon as the new Biden administration comes into the office, he expects to start working on a new plan to send out more stimulus checks, and he said that that's going to be the #1 priority as soon as Biden comes into office. Now, practically speaking, what does this mean? Well, it probably means that we're going to see a whole new wave of stimulus check channels pop up on YouTube again, and it also probably means that many people are going to become hopeful for another round of stimulus checks. But if history is any indication of the future, do not hold your breath because we don't know how long it's going to take and we don't even know if it's going to happen. Second, this new stimulus plan extends the unemployment and jobless benefits into 2021, and this is important to understand because 12 million Americans were set to lose their unemployment benefits in the end of 2020. if 12 million Americans lost in income in the end of 2020, chances are you would see way more people enter into forbearance on their mortgages, you would see way more people get behind on their rent, and you would see many more people get behind on their credit card bills and all of the other payments. This new stimulus plan extends the unemployment programs, so the unemployment assistance program and the PUA program, into mid-March. So this plan will last about 11 weeks and it will pay you $300 a week in unemployment income. The interesting thing in this part of the stimulus plan is there's also a bailout for tenants who are struggling on their rent. So if you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, you might have heard me talk about what's going on in the housing market, where you have tons of people who are in forbearance on their mortgages and you have tons of renters who are behind on their rent. Well, this part of the stimulus plan has created a $25 billion assistance program for renters who are struggling or behind on their rental payments. Now, the way that this money is going to be distributed to renters is still kind of unclear because the plan hasn't set that out yet. But what we do know is that renters are going to get some assistance, and this plan has also extended the moratorium for evictions through January 31st. So if you are a tenant and you're not paying your rent, you are not allowed to be evicted until at least January 31st, 2021. And finally, if you have a federal student loan, you do not have to pay any interest on your federal student loans until January 31st, 2021. This used to be December 31st, but it was extended until January 31st. And right now, it looks like it's going to stay at January 31st, 2021, unless it gets extended again. Third, we have assistance for small businesses who are struggling because of this pandemic. And this new stimulus plan puts about $325 billion towards small business assistance. So one of the things that became very popular during the first stimulus plan was the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program for businesses. What this PPP program said was if you are a small business, you can take out a loan from the government that covers 8 weeks worth of your expenses. So this will cover your rent, your payroll, your utilities. So you can take this loan from the government. But the interesting thing about this loan is you can use it to cover your costs. And if you use it to cover your business costs, you don't have to pay this money back. So it's a loan that you don't have to pay back. So part of this money is being used to create a new round of PPP loans for businesses that are still struggling from this pandemic. And in order to qualify for the second round of PPP loans, you have to show the government that now you had at least a 30% reduction in your business between 2019 and 2020. If you can show that to the government, you can qualify for another PPP loan and use this money to help fund your business, and you might not have to pay it back. And part of this money is going to be used for grants and assistance for businesses that cannot access money anywhere else. And finally, the airline industry is getting a $15 billion assistance package or bailout through this stimulus plan. Now, you might be wondering, why is the airline industry so special, where they get a special assistance package through the stimulus plan while other industries like the retail industry and the restaurant industry don't, even though they're all hurting? Well, the politically correct answer is the airline industry is essential for our country to be able to function, but the non-politically correct answer is that the airline industry has a more powerful lobby. Now, obviously, the airline industry is struggling because travel is pretty much halted all around the world. After the first stimulus plan, the airline industry received a $25 billion bailout, and now they're getting a $15 billion bailout. But the thing that's kind of sad is the airline industry kept saying that they needed this money by October 1st, because if they didn't have any money by October 1st, they were going to have to lay off tens of thousands of people. And the stimulus plan did not get passed until December, which is why tens of thousands of people in the airline industry had already lost their jobs. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with airlines in 2021 and 2022 and 2023 once this pandemic goes away and once airlines start to make a profit again. Are we going to see another big round of stock buybacks? Are we going to see big executive bonuses? Or are we going to see a big payback to the United States government with this bailout money? I don't know. Stay tuned. Now, while this is all really nice information because lots of people are getting free money, there's something that I need with 2 underlines, need you to understand, because the United States government does not have $900 billion sitting in a vault somewhere. And so if the United States government has to fund a $900 billion stimulus plan, they're going to have to get this money from somebody else. And who is that somebody else? Well, none other than the Federal Reserve Bank. So if the United States government wants to fund this $900 billion stimulus plan, they're going to have to work with the Federal Reserve Bank to print this $900 billion and then inject it into our economy. Here's the thing, our dollars are not backed by gold or silver or anything tangible. They're just paper. So as more dollars are printed, the value of each dollar that you have goes down, which makes the price of everything around you, your rent, your groceries, your vacations more expensive. That's why if you had $20 in 1970, that would be equivalent to having $120 today in 2020, because as more dollars were printed between 1970 and 2020, our dollars became less valuable, which made the price of everything around us go up. So if you want to buy what $20 could buy you in 1970, you need $120 in 2020. As more and more money is printed through things like stimulus plans, this money gets created almost out of thin air, and then it gets handed to people and businesses. So now when people get this money in their hand, there's three things they can do with it. They can save this money, they can invest this money, or they can spend this money. If you save this money, then it doesn't really make a big effect into the economy because this money doesn't do anything. It just sits in a bank account. If you invest this money, well, this makes the price of assets, stocks, and real estate go up because now you have more people who have money to buy these assets. And the price of assets depend on supply and demand. When you have more demand, then the price of these assets go up. So if people have more money that they're investing, that means you have more buyers. More buyers push the price of assets up. And when people spend this money, where do they spend it? Well, you spend it at Walmart or Amazon or your rent. And so when you spend this money at Walmart or Amazon, now these companies make more money, which makes their valuation even higher because all this money was printed and it was given to people, and people go shopping at Walmart and Amazon. So now Walmart and Amazon have bigger profits, which makes their stock even more valuable because these companies made more money. Or you're gonna have to pay more money in rent to your landlord because your landlord's cost just went up. Your landlord might have to pay more money in maintenance and materials costs, and that equates to a higher rent. In the short term, these stimulus plans are great because they give money that they can use to pay their bills, to pay their rent, to pay their mortgages, and it gives people money that they can use to spend, even though in this situation is really only $600 a person, which is not that much. But for the sake of this example, when you get free money, it's more money that you can use to pay your bills. Now, it's also good for businesses because when people have more money to spend, they spend this money at businesses, and so this gets the economy moving. But the issue long term is as more money is printed, it can create more of a wealth inequality because all this money gets funneled to the top because people's dollars that they have in their bank account, their savings, become less valuable because as more money is printed, the value of your money goes down. And as people spend this money, all this money gets funneled to the top. And so now you have bigger wealth inequality than before because all this new money keeps getting funneled to the people that understand how money works. And so this is going to the businesses, and this is going to asset owners, investors, because these are the people that are owning the assets where all the money is going. I'm probably going to make a more in-depth video on this topic in the future, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But in general, when you get the stimulus check, make sure you're using it the right way. That means if you're behind on your bills, use this money to pay your bills. That way you're not paying late fees, you're not paying interest on things that are not paying you. Secondly, if you don't have a savings cushion, start building a savings cushion because it is very necessary, especially when we have so much uncertainty in this economy. And third, once you have that, don't use this money to go out and just start spending because you got free money. Use it to invest for your future. Invest in assets. Buy things that are gonna build you wealth. Don't buy things that are just gonna make everybody else rich because you got free money. If you enjoyed this video, here's the video that I think you'll love. And while you're at it, subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our free finance and business newsletter. And as always, keep hustling. Hold for a few months. Let's dissect the anatomy of a real estate crash so that we understand what a real estate crash is and what could potentially cause it. So a real estate crash, when people talk about a housing market crash, is when you see a 20%